This is the Marn Brook Footy Show with your hosts, Grant.
Australian music legends, Gilly. Well done, fellas. I'll be back a little bit later on, Gilly, to perform another hit song. Let's introduce the rest of the panel. Rock and Ronnie Burns, Chris Johnson, and the journeyman, Alan Thorpe. Gilly, let's go straight to the AFL ladder as it stands after round 21. And it's really interesting at this stage of the year. Only a couple more games, the final's going to happen. And on top, Collingwood and Geelong. Let's have a look at the bottom 9, Gilbert. There's only probably one team outside that bottom 9 that could probably make the 8.
Yeah, look, I think Sydney and 8 spot are in danger of missing out, and if there's a challenge, it won't be North Melbourne, it'll be the Dockers.
OK, big statement, Gilly, but they're a chance. That's a wee-wee.
Geelong Premiership player Nathan Ablett will make his debut for the Gold Coast Suns against Adelaide on Saturday. Ablett quit footy after kicking 3 goals in the 2007 Grand Final, moved to the Gold Coast in 2009 and played for Broadbeach before being recruited by the Suns. Speaking this week, he said that his brother Gary had looked after him since moving to the Gold Coast and it would be an extra buzz to run alongside him in his comeback game. Collingwood coach Mick Malthouse has made no guarantees that skipper Nick Maxwell will immediately regain his place after recovering from a hand injury. However, he did say that the case of defender Heath Shaw was different and that Shaw will be ready to play after serving his suspension.
So I expect that Heath, one with the Arizona backup, he'll come back a lot fitter. He'll come back just as strong. He'll have his touch. We've got a coach over there with him who just serves the ball up to him religiously or virtually all day. So I don't have a great deal of fear for Heath Shaw. For Nick, well, Nick's different because he can't use his hand.
Brisbane Saturday night at the home of football, the mighty MCG. And the Pies, well, 4 changes, Gilly, a couple of new faces there.
Yeah, well, look, good to see Tivy back in there, but a couple of new ones you mentioned, well, Keith and Sinclair and Young. Either side, Johnson, Ronnie, it's that soreness again. Oh, Maxwell, he's going to be out with thumb. Could be out for the rest of the year, boys. Chrissy, you should fill us in on that. Wellingham's out with a groin. Brown has been omitted, but Dale Thomas, grand la forme.
Okay. Well, let's swing across to your former club, Brisbane Lions, and, well, they have been disappointing. They had a good win last week, but only one change this week.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Daniel Rich, or Ronnie might have mentioned, he's just signed a new 2-year contract. Good to see him back in the side.
I didn't say nothing.
Along with Hawks, he's been omitted, Ronnie.
Well, let's talk about young Reid at Collingwood, Gilbert, because he's been an absolutely fantastic player this year at Collingwood, and he's had to stand up at centre-half back, and he's able to do that. Tarrant's gone back to full-back, but he's been a really good player for him.
Oh, he's been brilliant, and that's why Collingwood is so good, because they've got so many flexibility in their forward line, and even in their back 50, they've got so much flexibility. It doesn't matter who is there, whoever goes in that position, they know their job.
OK.
She's got a lot of flexibility, haven't they?
They have, Collingwood. They have.
OK. Well, let's
get myself.
Let's get some tips, please, Al.
Collingwood easy, Grant.
Chris.
Look, I think Collingwood's going to be the obvious winner, but I think Bossy will be really into his troops about taking something out of this game to make sure they take it into next year.
Collingwood?
Collingwood.
OK. Rock and Ronnie Burns.
I love it when he comes back on. I love him. Collingwood, a lot of flexibility. They'll get a good season.
Aaron, can you see Brisbane winning this one?
No, I think Collingwood got the goods.
Flag pies for me too, Gilbert.
Oh, he's back on the show and you love him now. Anyway, Collingwood will win easy.
OK.
The Pies haven't lost a game this year since round 8 against Geelong, and it looks like they could possibly be on their merry way to another grand final.
And the only thing that could possibly get in their way is in their own minds.
That's right, and we're talking about the Collywobbles, and it's something the Pie fans don't want to know about.
The Collywobbles were buried in 1990 or 91, I think.
Done and dust. It's all over for this year and probably next year.
Yep. I reckon the Collywobbles are absolute history. Yeah, we don't know anything about them at the moment.
There's no such thing.
There's no such thing? You think it's a myth?
Myth.
A myth.
Definitely myth.
Definitely haunt them tonight. They're away from their comfortable space here tonight.
Yeah, I think they get very, very nervous. And I think they'd be a little bit scared of us tonight.
Last year, they won the premiership. They're confident enough to know that the system that they play, the structure that they play, is working.
Unfortunately, last year, the Collywobbles didn't occur. We all thought in that game when Goddard took them on.
So you reckon they lose their heart when it comes to finals?
They'll buckle.
They'll buckle?
They'll buckle.
What do you think the Collywobbles are?
Well, 1966 makes the...
It's when Collingwood starts going really well and then starts not going very well again.
Everything starts falling apart?
Yeah.
So do you think you're going to win the premiership this year?
That's the plan.
It's a good plan.
It is.
Thank you, Layla, and thank you, Shelley. Gilly, it's time to go to the Margaret Player of the Week. And Thorpe, you'll be licking his chops this week. It's for 2 weeks in a row. Leon Davis. He's backed it up again, Gilbert. Sensational on the weekend for the Pies.
Nah, look, he's in terrific form, like I said last week, and...
Gil, you know what do you mean terrific? He's been brilliant.
Yeah, but if he wins the best and fairest, then I'll say he's brilliant.
He'll win the Brownlow.
Well, let's check out his stats for the weekend, because he had the ball on the string. And he's been a mainstay for the Pies in defence this year. But look at that, Gilly, 36 possessions and rebounding from 58 of them. Absolutely sensational. Well done, Leon.
31 were kicks, weren't they?
Yeah.
And look at that. He's had 5 bounces.
Well,
they do a lot of bouncing these days.
This is how the panel voted, Gilly, and you can see just pipped Lance Franklin there last week. 8 goals straight from Big Buddy, and that was a fantastic game. Cyril Rioli had 5 before half-time.
Oh, Cyril should be a bit further higher, but never mind. Eddie Betts got a few.
OK, and there's that leaderboard, Gilbert, at the moment, and Leon Davis, well, he's fast encroaching on Daniel Wells there. Wellesley's been out in front for the last few weeks, but only a couple of votes behind now.
Well, you can go as far down as Gucci, because Gucci could still win it on his... because he's capable of getting 3 BOGs in the next 3 games.
Yeah, fair enough, Gilbert. Well, now it's a huge pleasure to introduce our next guest. He played over 200 AFL games for Richmond, Geelong and St Kilda, including 2 premierships with the Tigers before going on to become one of the finest callers this game's ever had. Please welcome the legendary Rex Hunt! Rex, it's such a delight to have you on the Margaret Football Show. I know you haven't done TV for quite a few years now, but thank you so much for blessing us with your presence on the Margaret Footy Show.
It's absolutely my pleasure to be here, so thanks, Grant. Just get on with it, will you?
Now, Rex will do just that, my friend. Now, let's talk about your career, because as a young kid you played in Parkdale. You played for Parkdale in the Federal League, and you had a run at Richmond under-19s. But you always had one ambition as a young fella, that you wanted to be an AFL football caller, is that right?
No, that's exactly right. I was inspired by cricket commentator Alan McGilvray, and then Jack Dyer started on the radio, and then along came Harry Bites, and they actually had the ability to take me to the game that they were broadcasting. I thought, what a skill. And I thought, gee, the best 3 years of my life were spent in year 9 at Mordialloc High School, so I can't go to university and be a radio broadcaster. Perhaps I should try and play the game at the highest level, and fortunately I was reasonable.
Pretty successful. Good average player, Rex.
Jack Dyer described me as a good ordinary player, so there you are, yeah.
Rex, you made your debut with the Tigers in 1968 and played at the club when Tommy Hafey and Secretary Graham Richmond were huge figures. Were they big, huge figures there? What kind of impact did those 2 people have on your career?
Well, the first thing that impacted on me was the fact that it was an honour to play for the Richmond Football Club. Ronnie, the club had come out of a very, very dark era of 27 years where we never played in a final. And then all the under-19 guys became men and had experience, and then we had that sensational era between 1967 and 1974, and then they won it again in 1980. And unfortunately, we haven't had success since. If we can get a lot of good young kids together like we've got now, you've got to be patient, but this world is not that patient, is it?
No. Fair call, Rex.
Oh, look, Rexy, I'm in awe of you, mate. You're a legend. But look, Vic Park in 1992 or whatever it was, I played in that game. I don't keep much memorabilia, but I actually kept that game of you commentating on radio. That was the best call I ever heard. But look, it's about you. The premierships in 1969, 1973, Richmond versus Carlton. A lot of rivalry back in those days. What a pleasure it would have been to beat the Double Blues back then.
Well, it was a great rivalry because Richmond and Carlton, Gilbert, were the best sides going around. we measured each other by how many of their players could get a game for us. And I've done the same this year with Collingwood. I think Collingwood have got 28 players on their list who could get a game from any other league side. But with Richmond and Collingwood, it was always about the 17 or 18 mark. And it was, you know, Richmond would win and then Carlton would win. 1972 was a great disappointment for us because we were clearly the best side in the home and away games. But as you know, like anyone else, it's not all about home and away games. It's about who wins on the last Saturday and players of all.
Well done. Well, Rex, you've always worked on radio as a caller and, of course, on TV, but you called VFA football quite a few years ago, and I can remember you calling with a very young Bruce McAvaney, and we've got a little bit of footage just to show you a little bit of goal we've dug out from the archives.
Where'd you get this on eBay?
And, well, there's Rex up there.
What's that on top of my head?
That's not Tony Gill there, is it?
Looks like a porn star.
And here, young Bruce McAvaney looks a bit like Darren Gouchy, the jockey, doesn't he?
Oh,
just amazing.
But they're gone.
It was an amazing time because when I broadcast there, and it was 1871, I think it was, just before the year of the big log jam at Melangrita, and there was Philip Gibbs, who was just a fantastic mentor. There was Bruce McAvaney on one side and Eddie Maguire on the other, and we haven't sort of kicked on, have we?
Now, Rex, we've got a bit more footage of the game here, and I'd really love you to call it, mate, because you are the best caller, in my opinion,
thanks very much.
of the game today. So
last week's game or something,
yes,
is it?
Yeah,
it
was
fantastic.
good. So let's have a look at some rare footage here and give it a bit of a
Goodness
call.
me, black and white. This is Highwood in the 1972 grand final. Kicks it up. Oh, there goes Hunt right over the top of the pack, number 5, but it went to Walsh. He dropped the ball, but he had past a hungry Bartlett. Bartlett went bung with a finger-breaking mongrel punt over the top of Richardson. Here comes Cumming. Knocked it on, but Southby comes from behind, and Southby kicks it back into the centre towards Dixon. Dixon should mark, but he didn't. Here comes Bond. Bond, the racehorse. 1 bounce, 2 bounces, 3 bounces. Lift the lead from Baum. Here comes Baum. Punched away from Southby. Sheedy. Sheedy hand passes. Baum knocks it on. Stewart. Goal.
Gilly, you can see why Rex definitely is the best scorer. To the show, it's been fantastic to close the show. Jojo